If you like this video, please hit the subscribe button and the bell so you don't miss the next one. Push processing is a developing technique generally used for obtaining usable images in low light conditions or when a film has been underexposed accidentally. It can also be used creatively if the photographer wants more grain and contrast in an image, or for sport photography, freezing the action with a faster shutter speed. With push processing, you would normally shoot a film 1 or 2 stops over the manufacturer's speed. So take Ilford's HP5 400 film and push it 1 stop to 800 or 2 stops to 1600 and so on. You're basically underexposing your negative and then you're compensating in the development process by overdeveloping. Personally, I enjoy pushing film, but only for the grain and contrast, such as a particular portrait or for street photography. Film and developer go hand in hand when finding your preferred look for processing film. I've had great results in the past with Tri-X 400 pushing to 1600 and developing in Rodnall. Not everyone's cup of tea, but I like it. Others say use speed enhancing developers such as D76 or DDX or Microphone for pushing film. One thing I've never done is push film at different ratings on the same scene and print it to see the different results. So that's what I'm going to be doing in this video. Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. I'm in a darkroom this afternoon and I want to do a few experiments on pushing film. Now I was going to do this off camera, but I've decided to put it on camera because I've realised I haven't done any videos on pushing or pulling film. And believe me, I ain't no expert, but I've tried it before. Often I've pushed film and I've pulled film for certain situations, such as street photography. If I want to get a nice bit of contrast, a bit of grainy, gritty looking image, I push the film to sort of 1600 or 3200 if it's a, say, a 400 speed film. And I've had some pleasing results in the past, but I've never actually put the different speeds to test in a darkroom session, if you like. So I was going to do this off camera, but I've decided to make a little video out of it, just hopefully if it helps any of you guys with the curiosity of, you know, what happens when you push film. So that's what I'm going to be doing this afternoon. I've got a roll of HP5 and I've already shot a series of photographs on a gazebo in my garden, which has got some nice tones in it. So this is the scene that I took a photograph of, and we've got overcast sky, we've got this white canopy on the top. So this is the area that I'll be looking at. I'm not really interested in any of this area at all. This is the area I'll be looking at to see what kind of grain comes out in these prints. Got the light sky. This is brighter than the sky, so we'll soon find out when we make some prints. Now I don't really want to go along and you know, waste too much developer. So what I've decided to do is use these little tiny film tanks, and I've tried and tested stuff like this before, and it works really well for me. So this is what I'm going to be cutting my rolls of film in, put them inside these little tanks here, and you can see the little setup I've got here at the moment. So what I'm going to be doing is taking the film out of the camera and cutting it into those sections. I've already shot 400, 800, 16, 30, 200 speeds, all the same exposures on the meter that I used on the camera. And I'm going to be putting them inside these little tiny tanks here. One by one. It's going to take me quite a while to develop because of the developing times. I don't want to do 2 or 3 at the same time or 4 at the same time, because I'll get a little bit confused. So I'm just going to do 1 at a time and try and keep it simple. But the idea of these little tanks is that I don't use a great deal of developer. I'm going to be using XTOL, and I'm going to be using it at stock. And I've already looked at the massive dev chart. For those that are new to film or new to developing, there is a chart of recommended development times for certain films and certain developers, and it's called the massive dev chart. I use it all the time. I'll put a link in the description on this video for you to have a look at. And I wrote a little tiny reference sheet here for me, so I know that the speeds 4, 8, 16 and 32, I know that it's all XTOL at stock. And the 400 speed I'm going to develop for 6 minutes. The 800 is 10.5, 1600 is 13, and 3200 is at 17.5. So you can see the reason I'm going to do these individually as I go along, but I'll show you the first one, and then the rest of the process is going to be the same. This is 20 degrees as well. They're all going to be at 20 degrees at the moment. This is my XTOL, which is just below 20 degrees, so I'm going to put that in the microwave for probably 5 seconds. That should do it. There's my stop bath there, and there's my fixer, and this is all fresh chemicals as well. So I need to get the film out, and then I need to cut it into sections. Hopefully after taking 4 shots on each speed, I should be able to find the right frame. Afterwards I'm going to make prints of each photograph that I took at those speeds. So I'll make 4 prints, 10 by 8, so we can see the grain. And just be interesting to see, you know, to put the 4 together and see the difference between all 4. Obviously, we're hoping that 400 speed, there'll hardly be any grain at all. 800, 16, 32, there should be quite a lot. So let's crack on with the experiment and see what we come up with. So I'm all ready to go, and next thing I've got to do is cut the film out of the camera, and that's obviously going to have to be done in the dark, and then put each strip inside the correct tank. So once they're inside the tanks, I can turn the lights on, but obviously when I open up the tank to put the developer in, oh, that's tight. When I open up the tank to put the developer in, I'm going to have to do that with the lights off and just pour the developer in slowly, and then once I put the lid back on, I can agitate and do what I need to do to develop the film. So I'm going to turn the lights off now. I'll turn it back on when I've got the film inside the canisters, and when I've got the developer inside of the first one, which is 400. So let's crack on. So I turned the lights off, and what I did, I've got another canister out and poured the XTOL in there and just transferred the film from the 400 into there. It was a lot easier than trying to pour it into the dark, so seemed more like the sensible thing to do. So lights are on now, so I can just continue agitating this for the next 4.5 minutes. I'll just show you one more agitation, and then I'll cut to the stop and the fix. I'm sure you'll get what I'm doing here. Okay, coming up to the 4th minute now, another 5 agitations. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and down. Okay, I'll turn the camera off, get on with the stop and fix, and we'll wash the first negative. Well, that was fun. I've developed the negatives now, and I've put them in they're hanging out to dry, and in fact it weren't fun, it was quite boring. I've been sitting in here over an hour just doing this with the film canisters. So a little bit boring, but now's going to be the fun part. I'll let those negs dry, turn the camera off, have a cup of coffee, and I'll come back in a few hours and have a look at printing some of those photographs. Okay, so I'm back in the darkroom again, and I've already cut the negatives up. I've labelled them so I know which one's which, and I've also marked out which negative that I want to print. So this is the test strip I've done for the 400 speed. So we've got 3, 6, 9, 12 and so on. And then after I've done the test strip, I did a second test here. And what I just wanted separation between the gazebo's tarpaulin and the sky, and you can just see it here, the separation. And we've got a bit of shadow here as well, and we've got detail in the tarpaulin. So that was I established that was 7 seconds. And then the next speed, which was 800, again exactly the same test print, and another short test after that just to separate the tarpaulin from the sky, and again that came out at 7 seconds as well. And I'm starting to see a little tiny bit more grain and a little bit more contrasty. So let's look at the 1600, and this is the 1600 now. Now don't forget, we're pushing film, so we're underexposing and we're over developing. This was the test strip that I'd done here, 3, 6, 9, blah blah blah, and I established the best separation between the tarpaulin and the sky was at 5 seconds, and now I'm starting to get a lot more grain, but the print seems to be starting to get muddier. So whether that was an underdevelopment, I'm not sure, but that was the 1600. Let's look at the 3200, and this was the 3200. I didn't actually do a test strip on this. I took a hunch at 3 seconds because the negative did look like it was underdeveloped and obviously underexposed, and I did a test strip on this at 3 seconds, so this was 3200. So that's all the testing done so far. The next thing to do is to make a 10 by 8 print of each photograph. Now I'm going to be using the same seconds on the enlarger as what the tests came out, so I'm not going to change anything. This is just bog standard printing, so I'll show you the first one, first 10 by 8 print, which will be the 400 speed photograph, and then I'll turn the camera off and I'll do the next 3 and I'll show you the results at the end. Right, so that's the 3200 neg, so I'll take that out and I'll put the 400 in. Put it in the enlarger. Okay, just getting a piece of paper out of the bag now, and the .400 speed tested at 7 seconds. Put it into my easel. Dial in 7 seconds, and the aperture is on f8 on the enlarger, and off it goes. Nice and quick into the developer now. And these are my trays, my develop, stop and fix. So I'll just agitate this for about a minute. And you know, this isn't really, I suppose, the ideal way of testing for the results on push film, but like I said at the start of the video, it's an inexpensive way for me to do it. And I often play around in the darkroom using these little film canisters just to see, you know, different results. I suppose if I wanted to do a concrete test, I'd use 4 rolls of film and a full developing tank, you know, and just to see the results that way. But I'm doing it this way because I often play around, like I said, in a darkroom with these little canisters and muck about. So if anyone can take any information from this video, all well and good. None of my videos are how you should do it, it's just how I do it. And you know, if it helps anybody along the way, it certainly helps me, because I can always go back on my videos as a reference point. So anyway, on we go. Okay, now let the excess drain off and put it in the stop bath. And finally into the fix. So overall, quite a fun experiment really in my darkroom. That's the 400 speed print. It's still a little bit grainier than I thought it would be. And this one was shot at 800 speed, or pushed to 800 I would say. It's a little bit more grainier and a lot more contrastier too. This one was the 1600. This is where it started to get, things started to get a little bit muddy. It's actually not as contrasty, not really much more grainy, but I've got a feeling that the development time should have been longer on this one. And certainly with the 3200 as well, I think the development time, that one's really muddy print, and I really could have done with a lot longer time in the development with this as well. But certainly between the 400 box speed and the 800, which was one stop push, I can see that the 800 is a little bit more grainier, and it's certainly more contrasty, so that's probably giving me a more true representation than the 1600 and the 3200. So it's still a fun little experiment to do in the darkroom. I don't think the 1600 and the 3200 are a true representation at all for a push film of, or pushing HP5 to those speeds. I certainly think the developer needed to be longer, or maybe a different developer. So anyway guys, I hope you liked the video. Please subscribe to my channel, like the video, and if you're experienced in pushing film, or you do it quite often, let us know in the comments below what your process is, because I'm sure others would like to learn more about it. Also read what other people are doing, and I certainly for one would be interested to read them as well. So thanks a lot guys, catch you later.